Hello, and welcome to Lesson 3 in our Google My Business section, how to get the best kind of Google My Business reviews so that more searchers will click on your listing. Let's dive in. So we're going to start with just an outline of what we're going to cover, beginning with why reviews are important, then moving on to how to get the review link for your Google My Business listing, and then who to ask for reviews, and then when to ask for the reviews, and then finally how to ask for the reviews. And that part is extremely important, so stick around. So just jumping in, why reviews are important. Basically for two related reasons. First, they're important to customers. If you're a customer and you're looking for a good restaurant in town, you just look over the listings, you're inclined to pick one with better reviews, naturally enough, if there's one that pops out at you. People want to be confident that they're picking a good contractor. It's the same sort of thing. And then because reviews are important to customers, they're also important to Google. So good reviews will help you rank better. Now, there's a little bit more, some subtleties about reviews. Not all reviews are created equal, obviously. Reviews that mention keywords are one kind of special review. It can be extra helpful if you get a good review that mentions maybe a specific service that you provide. Google will attempt to scan reviews and get an idea of what they're about, what service that you provided that sparked that review. So for example, a positive review that mentions metal roof, like so-and-so contractor replaced my metal roof and we were really happy with that. If you get reviews like that, that will help you rank better for metal roofing searches. It won't be like a wild bonus for one review, but it does make a difference, and especially as you get more and more like that. And what's more, by the same reasoning, when a customer is reading through your reviews and they notice that you've got maybe several for metal roof repair, they'll feel more confident that you can help them with that particular kind of project. It's also worth noting that the opposite is true. If you get a negative review that mentions a specific service, it will make Google be less likely to show you for that particular service. So that's worth bearing in mind. So that's the first sort of special review thing to note. And there's a second one, reviews with images. Now, Google has somewhat recently made it possible for reviewers to add photographs to their reviews. And there's some evidence that Google weights these reviews more strongly than others. It's not been, conclusively demonstrated, and Google doesn't tell us, but it seems reasonable. Somebody who decides to add a photograph to their review, often it can be more helpful, one would imagine, to a customer. Potential customers will value more highly seeing that it's a real review. It adds a certain level of relevance and authenticity to the review. So it's worthwhile getting reviews with images if you can. So that said, how do you get the review link? It's a lot simpler than it used to be. In fact, if you recall from lesson 1 of this course, when we were setting up the Google My Business listing, you would set up your short name, and that short name is really helpful for getting a simple, easy to remember review link. So we'll start by going to your Google My Business dashboard at business.google.com, and then you'll move on and select your main location if you have more than one. And then you'll scroll down to this little section where it says Get More Reviews. And underneath that, you're going to have a link that you can copy, you can just copy that and send it to people, and it will take them immediately to a page where they can review your Google My Business listing. If you don't see this section, make sure you set up your short name, as we talked about in the first video. But you should see it, and you should just copy the link and you'll be ready to go. So once that's done, you should then move on to the next question, and that's who should you ask? And sometimes business owners are afraid to ask for reviews unless they're certain it's going to be 5 stars, because they kind of want a perfect review, perfect review rating. They want only 5-star ratings. But that attitude can actually hurt you a bit, because it's honestly much better to have 70 reviews and have a couple 4 stars or even 3 stars mixed in there than to have maybe 12 5-star reviews. So, and the other thing you have to remember too is if you treat people right, they will review you well. So I think owners are sometimes almost more persnickety than customers about all the things that go into doing a perfect job for someone. But honestly, if you just gave people a good experience and they had a good experience working with you, they'll give you 5 stars. So you should ask every one of your customers to review you with one caveat. If they're the kind of customer that you never want to have anything to do with again, just cut your losses and don't bother asking them to review you. It's just not worth it. It's kind of just common sense. But the main takeaway is, when in doubt, ask for reviews. You want a lot of reviews, and the only way you're going to get a lot of reviews is by asking for a lot of reviews. And again, 4-star reviews are not the end of the world. In fact, there's some evidence in some industries that if you have only 5-star reviews, customers may be suspicious about, well, are they really genuine? How did you get all these perfect reviews? Are you almost too good to be true? So I certainly wouldn't recommend trying to get 4-star reviews, but it's not a bad thing if a couple of those get mixed in there. So then when to ask for reviews, again, this is also maybe more important than you might think. There is a perfect time to ask for reviews, and it's as soon as you've completed the project and made sure the client is satisfied. And when you think about it, it's kind of common sense. You don't want to ask for a review before you know that the client is satisfied with your work, but you don't want to wait. You want to ask as soon as the project's done and it's fresh in the client's mind, and they're still sort of within the experience and they're satisfied and they're like all the good feelings about the project that you've done for them. You don't want to give it a week or two to cool off, because they're just more likely to ignore you or forget about it. You want to do it as soon as you completed the project and made sure the client is satisfied. Preferably in the very same conversation when you make sure. So it's still fresh in their mind and they still have all the positive feeling towards you that they're not going to necessarily have as strongly in a couple weeks. And then finally, and this is crucial, how to ask for reviews. The best way to do it is to ask them in person. People are a lot less likely to ignore you or brush you off if you ask in person. That's not always possible, and you can ask in an email or even text message, but asking in person is the most effective. The different ways you can sort of pitch it. Often people are more likely to review you if you just kind of frame it as helpful for their customers, which is, obviously it is. If you know that the customer really likes you, you might pitch it directly as helpful to you if they review you. But it's usually helpful to mention that reviewing you is a great way to help other potential customers make an informed decision. And oftentimes people are happy to do that. But then what's really important is you want to make the process as easy and frictionless as possible, because people are happy to review you, but they're only so happy to review. They're not going to do it if it's lots of trouble and hard for them to figure out. So you want to directly send them the review link. And it's worthwhile to have other options if they don't have a Gmail account, because they're not going to be able to write you a Google My Business review unless they have a Gmail account. So if they say, oh, I don't have a Gmail account, then you might be able to say, oh, you could review us on Facebook. Or maybe if you're on HomeAdvisor, you could say, oh, you could review us on HomeAdvisor. Or perhaps the Better Business Bureau. So that will depend a bit on your company and which sites you're more active on. I recommend asking first for a Google My Business review. And if they're like, oh, I can't do that, then maybe suggest other options. But yeah, just have other options if they don't have a Gmail account. And then this is also helpful. Once you ask somebody to write a review, they may not have a very clear idea of what that should look like. And that might also make them a little bit more reluctant to jump in when they don't have an idea of what they're going to write about. So you could even just suggest what they could write about. Would you recommend us to someone looking for a roof replacement? And that will also be helpful because then they're more likely to mention your specific service, like we talked about before. And so that review will often be more helpful to you if you can get them to mention the specific service by suggesting the sort of things they could write about. And then finally, make sure they know they can include a picture, because again, as we mentioned before, there's some evidence that that's helpful from an SEO perspective, and it's definitely more helpful in terms of convincing customers who are reading through your reviews. So that's it. Thank you for sticking around to the end. Now, go win your market.